Welcome to the Draconic and Friends official podcast, where we peel back the curtain on puzzle games and the people who make them. I'm Syrenne, the producer at Draconic and Friends, and I'm joined as always by Alan Hazelden, the head of Draconic at Draconic and Friends.
Hey there.
Today, we're joined by Melanie Zawodniak, who you may know from their work on the Draconic and Friends official podcast, where we peel back the curtain on puzzle games and the people who make them. How are you doing today?
Hi, that's me. I'm doing pretty good.
So can you introduce yourself with some of the games that you've helped make?
When I was in high school, my friend was making like an RPG in Game Maker that was like about our friend group, and I counted. So like I was like part of that, I guess.
Sounds great. When's it going on itch?
Probably like by the end of the quarter or something. But,
sick. Happy for you. So what got you into game development?
I don't know how to keep this bit going.
Okay, yes. So Melanie is not a game developer. Melanie is the editor of the podcast. Melanie has a lot of fun stories, and there's a lot of room for discussion. So this episode's going to be a little bit different, everyone. Thank you for bearing with us. Trust me when I say this will be delightful. So,
a lot of pressure being put on me.
No, so I already know how I want to jump into this. So okay. Melanie, you don't need to go into like your whole backstory and everything. However, one thing I'm very interested in trying to get you to, like a story I'm trying to get you to tell is what. So for people who don't know, Melanie writes for a website called NintendoWorldReport.com and will occasionally Twitch stream. You have another podcast called Smasterpieces. Like there's a few different things that you do online, like a few different places that people can find you. My question is, at what point in your life did you realize that you wanted a lot of your free time to be focused on video games and the video game industry? Because this is not your day job. You have a day job. We don't need to talk about like what that is. We don't need to dox you. But a lot of your free time is about and around the industry. So what happened to sort of shape that?
I can trace that back to my freshman year of high school. This was the time where most of my thoughts were occupied by the fact that Super Smash Bros. Brawl was going to come out within the next year. And that like consumed all of my attention. I was following like news on it as much as I could, refreshing gametrailers.com to see if there was a new trailer that day, checking the Smash Brothers dojo every morning. One time while I was on vacation using the Nintendo DS web browser to do it. During this time, I came across a podcast that was just like a discussion podcast about Super Smash Bros. Brawl is coming soon. The name of this podcast was Show Me Your News. And this is like, if there was a firm before-after point in my life, it was this podcast, because this podcast ended up being the foundation for like so much of my life, because my friend group right now, like the people that I've known for the longest are all people that I met because they were also fans of this podcast. I ended up like kind of being a known person amongst the podcast fans, and like even was on the podcast a couple times, ended up like being invited to the podcast host's wedding. And so many of us that were there at the time ended up like getting secondhand interested in doing podcasts. And at the time, like nowadays, everyone like has the idea of like, I could probably do a podcast. I'd be interested in it. And it's like this was 2007. At the time, the average person had not heard the word podcast yet. So it was a novel idea, and most people didn't know how to even start with it. So I ended up in this friend group that started doing that. And specifically, we would talk about video games. My friend Joe that I do Smasterpieces with, he started his own podcast before me that for his sake, I will not say the name of, but it was just a podcast just like talking about like video games that they had played. And we were in high school and early college, like none of the stuff we were doing was really that good, but it was stuff that like we realized we were passionate about. And those skills that I developed, quote unquote skills at the time, because it was like using Audacity and like the cheapest USB microphone I could find and stuff like that. But those eventually led to me ending up at a radio station at my college, where I ended up being a lot more, I don't want to say successful necessarily, but more of like directly involved than I'd ever planned to be. Because it was just something I was kind of doing on a whim. And then I ended up like changing my whole major to radio, TV, film. And by the time I had graduated, I was the news director at that station. I was the operations manager at that station. I went to the Democratic National Convention and recorded a news package that ended up winning awards, which is still wild for me to think about to this day that I managed to like pull any of that off. And then I just go and get an office job using none of those skills that I developed. So that leads me to around 2018 time, coincidentally, when another Smash Brothers game is about to release, where I'm just like, you know what, screw it. I've been following this NWR site for about a decade now, on and off. So let's just send them an email, see if they're interested in anyone like joining and getting involved. And next thing I knew, I was part of the staff. I was helping cover stuff right away. I had, within like 2 months of joining, I think, I had made a video about the upcoming Super Smash Brothers game that ended up with like tens of thousands of views and stuff, and was like pretty successful by our standards. And now that's just kind of the path that I've been on of like, this isn't my day job. It's not like the quote unquote industry I'm in, but I would sure love for it to be. And these skills that I developed over those years, both at like in my amateur podcast with my friends and also at my school's radio station, it was something that I wanted to keep alive, to keep doing, because I didn't like, my day job's not glamorous. It's not sexy. I don't have a lot of fun with it. So if I'm really happy that I can like keep doing those things that interested me at the time through NWR, through Draknek, through Smasterpieces. And so that's kind of how, and video games are just the thing that I've been interested in my whole life. So it was just kind of easy to get involved in it that way. So that's how I ended up right here.
And there's no shortage of Nintendo sites on the internet. What was it about Nintendo World Report that made you pick that one to like email and say, hey, can I join your stuff?
The easy answer is just kind of like, that's the one that I happen to be following the most. They've got like their own, I got into it through like one of their bigger podcasts, Radio Free Nintendo, which Syrenne has actually been on before.
Too many times, and I derail it every time.
Yep.
Also, that's not that is an explicit podcast for anyone who's listening to this and wants to go listen to that. That is a very different tone of podcast.
Oh, yes, for sure. And so it just happened to be like the place I was paying attention to at the time. And my decision to join was like a little bit after like joining their Discord and getting it a little involved there, which I'm not nearly as involved in that Discord nowadays, but it kind of solidified me as like, okay, this is the place in the internet that I'm kind of paying attention to now and carving out a place in. So the next step was like, sure, let's see what happens if I try to get involved.
Yeah, and so it goes. All right, time for you to tell the story, Melanie.
There are so many stories I could be telling.
How did I start talking to you?
Oh my god. So there were a couple times that our paths crossed after I joined NWR, but I have a feeling I know exactly when you're talking about. Because at one point, my friend Joe, the one who I do the Smasterpieces podcast with, he strong-armed me into agreeing to stream every single Kingdom Hearts game on the Nintendo World Report Twitch channel, which was not entirely consensual on my part, but I did eventually agree to it. But wow, a lot of people sure did say that they wanted me to do this. And so we were in the middle of the third game in the series, Kingdom Hearts 2, pretty close to the end. And kind of just running up against like this part of the game that was just starting to give me trouble because I'm not very good at video games for how much I spend my life playing them. And suddenly me and Joe start having the dumbest argument in the world where we start arguing about when the last time we streamed was, because it had not been the previous week. And Joe thought it had been a full month. I thought it had only been 2 weeks. And this was a very stupid argument that was happening on air. And then in the chat comes a message from Syrenne clarifying exactly how long it had been. And at this point, I know who Syrenne is because I had been following like the Radio Free Nintendo podcast that she had been on. She had done several things for NWR. So I knew who she was. But as far as I was aware at the time, she wasn't aware of who I was. So this was just a little bit terrifying. And it turns out Kingdom Hearts 2 is a game that she deeply, deeply knows very well. And Alan, I'm going to go off a hunch here and say, you probably have an idea what it's like when Syrenne says to you something to the effect of, why are you doing it like that? So, Syrenne came in and taught me how to play Kingdom Hearts 2. And the way that she would describe it to me years later is that the thought that was going through her mind as she decided to send that message was that she was making a conscious decision to involve herself. And that she would go on to think, well, I guess these weirdos are part of my life now.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. To be clear, Kingdom Hearts 2 is a combat-heavy game where one of the 4 face buttons is for guarding, and Melanie was never hitting that button, and then she was running into trouble because she was taking too many hits.
In my defense, at this point, I had realized my friends were not very good at giving advice for this game. So I had started to ignore their advice. And it turns out that telling me to use the guard command was actually good advice.
Yes, as it turns out, the summer of 2005, when Kingdom Hearts 2 originally came out, was a summer that I had nothing going on. I didn't have work. I didn't have anything. And so I got to the point where after, a couple weeks, I was playing the entire game front to back every day. Just like improving my skill and knowledge of the game. This is like the game that more than any other video game that I have not worked on, I have played the most. And potentially it ranks among the games I've worked on too. I think Manifold Garden is number 1, but...
This sounds productive.
Alan, what were you doing the summer of 2005?
I was just graduating high school.
Yeah. Yeah, what were you doing in the summer? What productive things were you doing?
I was probably hard at work on Zelda fan sites.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, it all comes full circle. So, yes, that is how I became involved with Melanie and Joe. And
I would love to get some sense of like how far through Kingdom Hearts 2 had you gotten without this valuable insight?
Too
far. We were in the final world.
It sounds like you didn't even need this advice then. You would have managed.
No, there was a skill check.
We may or may not have spent an entire 4-hour stream grinding levels for me to be able to defeat a boss that I ran into during that night.
That was intended to be a skill check about guarding.
Okay, how much could it have really been intended to be anything when it wasn't even in the original release of the game, though?
Yeah, they added it because it was a skill check about guarding.
All I'm saying is that I would have successfully finished the original version of Kingdom Hearts 2 that night.
No, you would not have, because you had further trouble with all of the subsequent bosses. Nope. Not even buying this argument for a second, Melanie.
You can grind, and eventually you'll manage to get through something.
100%.
No, Melanie.
Yeah, what's up?
So the next fight against Zigbar.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend who I will put on blast. They have no idea that I do this podcast. I don't even know if they know where I work. This friend, the summer after Kingdom Hearts 6, in 2006, they said that they had been stuck on the Zigbar fight for like an entire year. And I was like, oh my god, what? And I looked at their save file, and their save file had 700 hours on it, and they were max level.
God.
And they could not outgrind their skill deficiency.
So this is pretty typical of the rapport that Syrenne and I have, where I'll say something, and then she will go, no, that's not correct.
No.
and I'll try to defend myself, and she will not let that stand.
Like, you just need to have like integrity. You need to like know in your heart of hearts that what you're saying is true, and then she can't hurt you.
So here's the thing.
The moment you let doubt into your heart, she's won.
That is like what a Kingdom Hearts character would say, by the way.
That is exactly the script of a Kingdom Hearts game. No, I think that I think the relevant detail here is that I don't do this about opinions I strongly disagree with. I don't just go no. When Melanie is semi-jokingly doubling down on something that is factually incorrect, that's when I just switch to no.
Look, sometimes you got to commit to the bit for content.
Yeah, but sometimes the content is just you and I on a Discord call.
Be that as it may.
The content of your life.
Melanie,
I'm a method actor.
Melanie is second only to me in enjoying a great bit. Alan knows this. I'm always in for a bit.
I was literally a theater kid in high school, so the theater kid energy is still with me.
Yeah,
If you like bits so much, why do you refuse to let the podcast be sponsored by Hent.ai?
No, I wanted to keep that bit.
Thank you.
I was so sad to cut
someone is going to go to that website URL.
Doesn't resolve right now.
Don't care.
I'm so sad that like I'm the only one in the world that gets to hear the moment where at the very end of an episode, like you just pick up on the bit of sponsored by Hent.ai and the audio cuts out as Syrenne is going, no. To this day, I wish I could have kept
it a couple of times.
Yeah, this has been going a few times, listeners. I guess this is in the middle of the episode, so it has a higher chance of resolving. God. Yes, no, there are bits. There are bits. No, Alan, for whatever reason, my mind is a blur this morning as I'm trying to think of bits that I've suggested for different games that we've worked on. None of them have been serious suggestions, but there's definitely been bits on some of these games.
So far, it just seems like the recurring bit is to just make the second half of the game in the last week of development.
God.
Yeah, Syrenne loves that.
Yeah, that's not a bit. That is a workplace mistake.
I think often about like the one episode where I just send Syrenne a message that says, I love how this one just turns into Syrenne's airing of grievances. And then she replies in all caps, whatever I said, I'm right.
That was, for listeners' reference, that was the electrifying incident postmortem. And yeah, no, I was right. And you can tell because as soon as I begin airing grievances, everyone just shuts up and starts giggling because they have no defense. Alan will like jokingly try and defend sometimes.
The quality of the game is its own defense.
I would argue the budget versus the sales should be the actual defense.
I think
I don't want to look at what the sales would have been if we hadn't added the secret ending.
I think the way that I have talked about this podcast to my friends sometimes is that Alan is my favorite fictional character on a podcast. If I was in Syrenne's position, within a month, I would have killed him or myself.
It's look, we play up the workplace drama for the podcast. There's
only been one time where we've come off a podcast and I've gone, oh, is Syrenne actually angry with me?
Yes, that did happen once, and I think that was the electrifying incident.
It was
specifically.
It's a good bit. It's a funny bit.
No, I will say that our internal work meetings are remarkably more chill. This is the chillest place I have ever worked.
Yeah, because the work meetings aren't content. You know the importance of playing up the bit and the character for content, and that's what I'm
saying. Do. I'm the aggrieved producer. That's my character.
And I'm the hardworking creative who has a vision.
And
Yeah,
I'm the one that
you're
can
the
definitely finish this video game without pressing the square button.
God, no. One of my other, going back to Kingdom Hearts for a second, one of my other favorite details is that from that moment, from that moment on, I stuck around. I was thinking that call, and I just spent like the next hour correcting all of the incorrect information that Melanie had been given by her very incorrect friends. Information such as, you keep complaining about the Little Mermaid world in Kingdom Hearts 1. Why did you go there if you hated it so much? It's fully optional.
Yeah, they did not. That was not explained to me.
That it was optional, yes. Like I don't know. Anyways, like Melanie said, Kingdom Hearts 3 is the third game. You have done how many games? You've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going into 7.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hopefully, by the time this episode airs, we will be playing Dream Drop Distance.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, if anyone wants a good introduction to Kingdom Hearts, it's not that. However, you might get to see a 3DS render of a bad film render of CGI de-aged Jeff Bridges. This franchise. Anyways.
I remember when Joe was like campaigning to get me to play these games. There was a literal campaign that went on for days. He made this video where he was like naming off all the things that you get to do in Kingdom Hearts, and he referred to talk with someone that's allegedly Jeff Bridges, and then talk to a second person that's allegedly Jeff Bridges.
Yes, that is an accurate description of that game. So, pivoting away from Kingdom Hearts, even though you know that I could talk about Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts lore for days on end.
Oh, I sure do know.
It's all in my brain for some reason.
That's not necessarily what our listeners are coming to this podcast.
It's not necessarily, although it's going to be in the description, so they'll have some forewarning. I try and pick 3 things that happen during the podcast and put it in the description every week, and sometimes they're more serious than others. So, how did you get introduced to Dracneck games? She's laughing because it's a very funny story. Alan, I don't know if you've heard this story.
I have no idea what's coming.
It's a deeply funny story. And of course it involves Sonic the Hedgehog.
So as all things in my life do, this occurred live on air on the Nintendo World Report Twitch channel, where I was playing Sonic Frontiers. Because as part of like this whole Kingdom Hearts journey that I'm going on, I have retaliated by, in between every Kingdom Hearts game, we play a Sonic the Hedgehog game, because my brain is broken because I played Sonic Adventure 2 when I was 8 years old. And so we were playing Sonic Frontiers, which was brand new at the time. And at one point, I am like messing with, I think, the activity cards on the PS5 UI for the game. And at this point, Syrenne just gets like really mad at the game because like apparently the activity cards in that game were so bad that she was just really offended by it. So on the spot, she says, "No, I'm going to show you like examples of good activity cards." And she immediately on air sends me download codes for a Monsters Expedition and Bonfire Peaks. And on air starts walking me through how the activity cards in those games work. And also pushing me through the introductory segment of a Monsters Expedition, which I will now take this opportunity to say rules. That incredibly good game and incredibly good intro. Like, I don't know if Syrenne has told you this bit, but like every time I have someone physically in my house that has not been there before, I get them to play that intro section.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I have gotten like 4 people to buy that game. It's a really good intro. And so I assume that Syrenne didn't expect that to really like be a very consequential night, but like I keep playing Monsters Expedition after that. And I play through to the end of the game. And I'm like, oh, this kind of rules. And so Syrenne then picks up on that and pushes me to try more games of this type. And so, like, I've tried Sokobond Express. I tried a little bit more of Bonfire Peaks, which is a difficult game for my brain to wrap my head around because it's like the 3D and everything. I played Patrick's Parabox, which I know you published instead of just developed, but also very good. I, of course, have played Electrifying Incidents, which also very good.
That
can I
archive
say
is
that?
gone for reasons.
Yes, it is. Can I say that I've played Spooky Express?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, because that one also, like, yeah, it turns out some of these games are good. And so,
Some.
yeah,
And
I mean,
before you started playing Dragnet games, what was your opinion of puzzle games?
I don't know that I really, like...
That's not true.
Mm.
You had an opinion, but the opinion was tied to falling block games like Pokemon Puzzle League.
Right, and they're not,
I mean...
as we've discussed on this podcast before, those aren't puzzle games. Those are arcade games or score attack games or any number of genre titles, but not puzzle games.
I would agree with that. I really like Panel de Pon, but I don't think that's remotely the same kind of game as the stuff that Dragnet makes. So I wouldn't put them in the same category. I don't, like, off the top of my head, I'm not sure, like, did I ever even play a real ass puzzle game before? I had played Baba Is You
You had played the Portal games.
True. Yes. Those are like everyone's played those. Though.
You've played Outer Wilds.
Had I played that yet? I don't think I had played that yet. I think I played that later.
Okay.
And so I played a little bit of Baba Is You. Never got very far because I'm not very good at these games. Like, don't mistake my enthusiasm for actual like skill. I'm very bad at them. But this is kind of like an experience of learning. Like, oh, here's this whole genre of games that I wasn't even looking at, that it turns out might be more interesting to me specifically than I ever thought. And I sure do wonder if that's like ever going to be a recurring problem that people talk about. But like, it's so funny that the way that this started for me was Syrenne gets really mad at Sonic.
As I am wont to do.
And out of spite.
Activity cards on PlayStation 5, this like throwaway feature that like most PS5 players probably don't even engage with or are aware of its existence in any way.
I think they don't even have them anymore in the same way.
No, they do.
I remember. I guess I don't know the details. I just remember like I'm in the Discord for Astrobot speedrunning, and they like made a big deal about how they can't do activity cards anymore. So the Astro's Playroom speedrun is now very different.
What?
Yeah. It was like a very controversial debate over whether they should allow activity cards for the speedrun.
Because you could
more like
quickly
fast
travel between levels, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because unlike Dragnet games, they would have multiple activity cards available at the same time.
Yeah.
It also became a question of like, because the screen like completely fades to black during it, it became a problem of like, can you trust that this video hasn't been edited?
Oh, sure.
Anyways, so you should also talk about your haunted freaking PS5.
Oh, yeah.
Alan doesn't know about this.
So I'm told that in the development for Monsters Expedition, you were very, very careful about making sure that save files were like super triple backed up and like there would never be a problem with them. And did my PlayStation sure do its best to prove that wrong. Because...
And not even through the in-game save backups, to be clear, Alan. Her PS5 would just delete the whole archive.
That's not good.
Yeah, this is not something that is specific to this game either. I am constantly getting like pop-up notifications on my PS5 about like, oh, this game's save data got corrupted, so we grabbed it from the cloud and put it back on. I'm like, okay, cool, that's nice. And so like every now and then, like I would load up Monsters Expedition, and this has happened like several times by now. I would load up the game, and there's just no save file anymore.
And we can't send a replacement save file for PS5.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, there was one time where it was like a funny series of events where the save file disappeared, and like the PlayStation Cloud had already like messed with it and overwrote it with the blank save file, so I couldn't grab it off of that. But then like I noticed that the activity cards, funny enough, because apparently this game is a shining example of activity cards. The activity cards were still telling me like that I could go to points later in the game. So I click on one of those activity cards, and then suddenly here's my old corrupted save file.
we did activity cards very well.
And like at one point, like as all this is happening, like I finally actually get like a real error code from the PlayStation about like what exactly is like going on. So I send it to Syrenne, and like she tries to look it up, and she's just like, as best I could tell, all this error code is saying is some wild stuff happened. We have no idea what it was.
Yes, it was a generic error code that says we don't know what happened.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, my PlayStation is cursed.
Also, it crashed at one point, which meant I finally got a crash log, and the crash log had nothing.
Was I actually the first one to ever crash the game?
To my understanding, you're the only person to crash the game on retail and PS5.
That rules. I love that.
It was very easy to find your log. Just go look up the list of crashes. Oh, there's only one lifetime. That happened today.
So, like, very obviously, my PlayStation is the problem. And so this speaks to, like, you did a really good job programming that game. Like,
yeah, Alan,
rock solid
did
code.
a great job programming that.
I mean, all of the code that I put into that game.
The royal you.
We should see about having Tyler on. Tyler did the PlayStation port for that game. He also did the PlayStation port for Bonfire Peaks.
You have some very good stories to tell, Tyler.
I don't know how much he remembers of like how the activity card implementation, but he'd probably get a really good laugh out of listening to this part. So I'll just send him this link. I'll just like shoot him an email. Just be like, hey Tyler, listen to this episode, no reason.
Yeah. And it's sad too, because like I don't think I've ever had a save file for that game that survived more than like 3 months, unfortunately. So I've like never been able to 100% it, but I have played I've replayed significant parts of it pretty often. So
have you, as someone who enjoys speedrunning, have you been tempted to engage with the speedruns of this game?
I thought about it, but you told me about how like a big part of the speedrun was that they mess with the refresh rate a little bit, and that's where it kind of becomes like
it's more that the input cap is tied to refresh rate, where you can move one tile per frame.
Yeah, that's where I respect speedruns like that a lot. I very strongly believe that like it is a valid type of speedrun to just be like, whatever it takes to finish the game, that counts. But I'm not personally interested in doing that kind, because it just isn't the kind of like activity that I'm interested in. My personal interest in speedrun is about like doing specific actions that are complicated and get wild outputs. Movement tech in games is something that appeals to me a lot. And so speedruns that are very big on that tend to be the ones that I'm most interested in. And for as much as I think Monsters Expedition is a fantastic video game, the movement tech is not very impressive.
Rude.
What, you don't like tap buttons as fast as like can be possibly registered?
Yeah, you don't like up, left, just as fast as you possibly can?
You don't like getting RSI?
I will say that like that is very good like overall control inputs for the game, because yeah, I'm definitely mashing those as fast as I can in the moment. And games that don't let me do that tend to be a little frustrating for me. So I'm very happy that that is something you guys think about.
Here's a question. Do you think the speedrun for Luck Digital is go to the settings, click unlock everything, and complete the final level as fast as you can?
I assume that's the any % run, and there are several other categories.
So yeah, you played a lot of Luck Digital.
I did, yeah. And another game that I've gotten several people to play.
Yeah, and you were a regular on the leaderboards for the daily puzzles.
Yeah, the only thing that like stopped me from doing it kind of regularly was when I just kind of stopped like having this block of time in my morning where I was consistently free to do them. And I actually just bought just like 2 days ago bought the mobile version, and
Heck
so
yeah.
I'm like maybe I can get back into this.
You never 100% of that game.
That is correct.
Because I asked why, and and I was like, you hadn't seen all the extra mechanics, and you said because it's so good, you don't want to spoil it all.
Yeah. Sometimes that works out.
Yeah, and then sometimes you just don't get around to it.
Yeah.
So what to you makes a really enticing thinky game? When I share Cerebral Puzzle Showcase with you, and when it goes live, and I say, best time of the year for thinky games, go go go. What sections do you gravitate to, and why?
So this is probably not going to sound like a compliment, but like this is like how I think about it, where it's like something that happens to me a lot of thinky games, Dracneck especially, and I promise you this is me saying I like this, is when I get to a puzzle and I look at what it wants me to do and I'm just like, oh, you cannot be serious. And I just like dread it a little bit because it's a thing of like, I know that I'm not especially good at these. And a lot of like once these games actually start challenging me in a way that I kind of feel a little nervous about what it's going to take to finish one of the challenges, that is what gets me excited because like quote unquote puzzles in most mainstream modern games are not really puzzles. They are just busy work and
Activities.
sure, I guess we could call them that. But it's just like I'm playing like recently one of the Zelda games on Game Boy, one of the Oracle games, and it's like the entire puzzle in one room is just push these blocks until you find the one that moves, and then the puzzle's over. It's like that's not a puzzle. That doesn't make me think about anything. It just makes me
Also, doesn't make you go, "Oh no, what are you asking me to do?"
yeah, kind of. A little bit does, but for very different reasons. More, why are you asking me to do this?
Yeah, that's me in a lot of video games. Is why would you do this?
Yeah,
why do you think
this
is fun?
And that I think is what appeals to me. Like that's what tells me that a thinking game is like actually really good. When I look at it and it's like, wait, you want me to do what? And not because I think it's stupid that you want me to do what. It's because I don't know if I've ever had to think about that in a video game before. And it's like it gets my brain working in ways that I've never had to make it work before. And so and again, I'm not good at these games. It takes me some effort to figure out some of these puzzles, but that's like kind of why I love them. I love them because they are making me do things that I like. They are not just rote for me over the course of the 30 years of my life that I've been playing video games, because a lot of video games now, this is like this. I grew up playing a lot of bad games, and those got me to be really good at like pressing the buttons in video games. So when a lot of games ask me to just do stuff based on weird technical input for buttons, those I don't even really have to think about. They're just things that come naturally to me because when I was a kid, I played a lot of Sonic Adventure 2 and SpongeBob SquarePants movie game, like stuff that was bad that I got really good at. And so that's left me in the position of now, like when games ask me to do things based on technical input, it's not very interesting to me. Games that actually ask me to think about what I'm doing, that make me solve a real puzzle that's not just pushing a block into one specific spot and that's the only block you have to push. That's the actual like real stuff to me. The stuff that's interesting and new and cool. It's the thing that like every mass market video game isn't already making me do. And so that's why this is a space that I'm like finding myself get really interested in now, even though it's not something that I have a history in. It's not something that I even am good at, but it's something that is just a part of the industry that to me wasn't present throughout my life. And now I want it to be more present. And I think a lot of people haven't even really given these games not even like the classic question that gets asked every episode of like, how do we get more people in the puzzle games? I think it's a thing of like, I think a lot of people, when you try to describe a puzzle game to them, they're like by default not so interested in it for some reason, until you get them to actually sit down and touch it. And then they're like, oh, this is cool. This is actually really interesting. And I think that a lot of like the bad puzzles in mainstream video games is a big part of why people have that reaction too. And so I think like a lot of people would probably have the same kind of reaction as me, where it's like, this is so much more interesting than I believed this space could possibly be. And I want to learn more about it now.
So, when are you making a puzzle game yourself? That's a great way to learn about it.
Have you ever heard of Puzzle Script, Melanie?
So actually, I have obviously heard you talk about it on the podcast, but I've never really looked into what it actually is. So actually, I don't know what Puzzle Script is.
Alan, go ahead and give your pitch.
So Puzzle Script is a free web tool for making puzzle games, where basically the only kind of puzzle game you can make is like grid-based games, mostly with like a single player character moving on a grid with terrible pixel graphics. And you make the rules of these games basically with find and replace rules. It's like, look for this situation anywhere in the world. And then if you find that, replace it with this other situation. So if you have a player and they're walking towards a box, find that situation and replace it with a situation where the player's moving that direction and the crate is also moving that direction. And that's how you get the rule of boxes are pushable. And it's not as approachable a tool as I would like. Like you kind of have to like hit your head up against some like kind of arcane documentation to like understand how that translates to, you can make a video game with this. But it's not actually that complicated. It's just you have to do it by typing text rather than like dragging things on screen. And once you've understood like the way that you program this game, and like it's not something that requires you to be a programmer to know. It just requires you to like think about game logic rules in a kind of different way to most other things. But once you've got the basics in your head, it's like really easy to just like make some very simple ideas very, very quickly.
I might give that a try then, because I don't have any like ideas for like what would be a cool new kind of thing to do in a puzzle game. Like I don't have anything inventive like that, but like I'm kind of curious. Like, okay, like if I just took the mechanics of Monsters Expedition, would I even be able to make an interesting puzzle in that? Like, is that something I have in me? And I don't know, maybe I'll try that.
Yeah, I think the Monsters Expedition rules, like you like in Puzzle Script, you probably wouldn't want to try and like implement all of the edge cases, but like the basic rules, like I think the rules are like satisfying enough, and like there's enough possibilities of what you can do with a level that like, yeah, I reckon you could make like a handful of levels that like are interesting levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't know, I'll give it a try.
You could also, like as an alternative, the PC version of Lock Digital also has a level editor.
That's true. I haven't messed with that. I should.
Yeah, it's really easy to bring levels in and out of that editor. And then yeah, you can just explore with different ideas and like different flows, and then you can spell different funny words with the junk letters.
Yeah, I don't like have a good idea for like what the step-by-step process of making a puzzle is, but that might actually be like the best position for me to be in to go in and try it. Like, where does my brain lead me without those preconceived notions?
Yeah.
I'll give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any questions for us?
Well, how do you think we can get more people into puzzle games?
Might I refer you to the last, I don't know, 30 episodes that you've edited?
It's just real. It's like funny parentheses somber how often it comes up.
It comes up because it is the question.
Yeah. But I do actually have a real question. Obviously, like I'm not a game developer, so I don't have like good, insightful questions about the process of making a video game that like your usual guests do. So instead of trying that, I want to ask something that will like can tell us a little bit more about you guys and maybe help to enrich the listeners at the same time. I'm interested, what is a movie that you have seen that is not like a super mainstream success? The average person probably doesn't know about this movie, but it's one that you think is really, really good and people should watch.
RRR.
Okay.
Okay.
Greatest movie ever made.
Do you want to talk a bit about that?
No.
might not be the right the right subject matter to discuss on
Sure.
air.
I mean, y'all can decide. RRR is a movie about. It is a Bollywood movie. It is on Netflix. It is, I believe, 3.5 hours long. It is an anti-colonialist Indian masterpiece, and it has some of the best singing and dancing and action scenes. And every time I think of that movie, I think, damn, movies could just be like this, you know? We could
Movies
this could
used to be
just
fun.
this could just be movies. No, you should. Anyone who has not seen RRR should go to Netflix. I could get into Bollywood and my strong affinity for that world. In terms of like what's a movie that people might have heard of, like made by white people. I don't know. I'll think on that
Like,
for another minute.
the scale of some of like what I was thinking, like my answer for this would be like I saw the TV Glow.
Oh yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, which is, if anyone's curious about it, it is a psychological horror movie about what it's like to be in denial about being trans. I had a panic attack watching that movie.
Alan, you go.
Yeah, I mean, so I tend to watch films once, and then like I might go like, oh yeah, that was a good film, or like, yeah, I didn't really like that. But like I think it's been a long time since I've like fixated on a movie and got like, wow, that was so good that I feel the need to like tell people like, hey, you should go and watch this film. So I'm trying to have a think about what.
I've heard you recommend TV. Now that I think about it, I haven't
TV works
heard
too.
you recommend movies.
Yeah, TV is good. A good answer too if you have anything there.
Yeah, TV. I'm currently watching Scavenger's Reign, which is I think not as good as everyone made it out to be. But still like good and weird and very interesting.
I think I've heard. Is that the one that's like goes really hard into like the world building of like the biology of an alien world,
Yes.
and like spends a lot of time on like making
Yeah,
it feel
like
real.
it was based on a like 10-minute short animated film that I think I like more because like it's like just the same experience but like compressed.
Yeah, so it goes.
But so that's what I've been watching recently. What's the TV? I mean, I really liked Dark, the time loop TV show. I think the third season didn't quite pull it together in quite the way I would have liked it to, but the first two seasons are like really impressive jobs of like taking a time loop concept and like actually thinking about it and like making it consistent and like making it feel like it was designed by people who are interested in like the interesting things you can do with time loops, which there's a lot of time loop movies and TV shows which are fine, but like don't really make sense. Like you think about it for 2 seconds, it's like, wait, but no, it doesn't. No, wait, no. And like Dark, you look at it and go, oh, and then wait, and that and that and that. And it's like really impressive. Like, oh, they just took the time to plan it out and then execute the plan and like make it consistent. You can just do that.
You can just do that. I've
I
also
like the sound of that.
I've also heard you talk very fondly about Foundation.
No, I think you're thinking of somebody else. I watched the first season of Foundation,
Okay,
and it was a sci-fi TV show.
fair.
I did like the book series Foundation, and like it felt like such a
Gotcha.
weird adaptation of that, because
That's
like
fair.
the books are like really interested in like, oh, you've got generations and generations, and like you've got different characters, and like sure you've got some through line, but like it's really like this is a long timeline. And the
Yes.
TV show is like, what if we compress this into 100 years?
Yeah.
Oh, that always goes really well.
Um.
I heard that it got better, or like that. I heard that people liked the show, like in the most recent season. But yeah, I've only watched the first season.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going TV, I would probably go Murder at the End of the World on FX Hulu, and then movies. The only other one that's come to mind is Sinners. So I'm not beating.
Sinners is so good.
I'm not.
I
beating
haven't seen it yet. But...
not white people allegations. I don't know. People just need to step up. Yeah, Alan, you gotta watch Sinners. You gotta watch Sinners.
It's on my list.
I walked into Sinners not knowing what it was about, and that is a wild way to watch that movie.
Yes. No details. Other than I might like it for similar reasons that I like RRR. Who's to say? All right. Well, thank you very much for joining, Melanie, for this very weird and special episode.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Where can people find you online if you want to be found?
Well, of course, every now and then I do stuff for Nintendo World Report. I don't do it as much now.
You're
just
working
because,
on a review right now.
I am, yes.
It'll be out by the time this episode.
Yeah, it's for the video game Shuten Order. Hopefully, by the time my review is done, I'll like the game better than I do right now.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be a good video game by the end.
Yeah. I'm most active on the Nintendo World Report Twitch channel, which is just twitch.tv/Nintendo World Report, where hopefully by the time this airs, we'll be doing the Kingdom Hearts games again. And every month
That's up
on the
to
first
you.
every month on the first Friday of the month, we do a competitive game of Mario Party with stakes. So like where the first place winner gets to decide a punishment game that the last place loser must stream for 1 hour. And that's how I had to play League of Legends one time. So
also, I want to underscore for people who are like, oh, Syrenne is involved with this channel. Not that part. Not Mario Party.
Yeah. And I also do, we mentioned a couple times, my podcast with my friend Joe, Smash to Pieces, where we are playing one game for every fighter in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which there's a lot of video games that you have to play for that. But that's all the stuff I really do. So
awesome. Well, thank you again for jumping on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, also, you can if you go wherever you find your podcasts and you search for something called the Draknek podcast, I'm involved with that too.
Yeah, I don't know how to spell Draknek. I think it's Draknet.
Got a wild auto transcription on a video recently, which was Gratnek.
Oh, I've seen DRACHMA Drachma.
Ooh.
It's great. It's a great username you chose, Alan. You should have thought about it more like 20 years ago.
Yeah. Just change your username 6 times throughout your life like I did.
I think it's 25 years now.
Damn. Okay. Well, again,
Amazing.
Thank you. And thank you for listening to the Draknek and Friends official podcast. Our music is by Priscilla Snow, who you can find at ghoulnoise.bandcamp.com. Our podcast artwork is by Adam DeGrandes. Our podcast is edited by 1/3 of the Zone of My Granicles, Melanie Zawodniak. Please rate and review us on your podcast service of choice, and be sure to tune in next episode for more interesting conversations.